The mistress snatched her father. The mistress's daughter snatched her boyfriend. They say that the one who is not loved in a relationship is the third party. Faced with her ex-boyfriend's plea to stay, Nanyin decisively chose to break up and even married a more handsome man. Flash married husband is an ordinary office worker. He said, "I'm very busy with work and don't have much time to spend with you." Nanyin thinks it's great. She's 25 years old and doesn't have the energy to talk about a second relationship anymore, so the two of them treated each other respectfully and slept well in separate beds. Unexpectedly, the man who had been neglected for too long finally couldn't hold back. On a dark and windy night, he touched her bed and pinched her slender waist, gritting his teeth and emphasizing, "Nanyin, I am your man." He is not only her man, but also the richest man in Jiangqing. Although he promised not to interfere with each other, he forced her to give birth to him. Additional explanation: the male lead has two names, Shenyi is Lu Nanxiao. Chapter 1. Stinky Man Break Up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At 10 p.m., Nanyin took a shower, finished skincare, and planned to go to bed. Before going to bed, she habitually used her phone to open WeChat and check for any work updates. Su Lei. Shiyu is drunk, come to Yayuan to pick him up. Yayuan is a high-end club in Jiangqing. Nanyin has also been there a few times before, but she is the only woman among a few big men, which is very uncomfortable. Unexpectedly, when Chen Shiyu returned from a business trip, he didn't come to find her at the first time, but instead went to Yayuan to drink. This made Nanyin feel stuffy and uncomfortable, but whether she felt uncomfortable or not, as a girlfriend, there was also Chen Shiyu's assistant. She got out of bed, quickly put on her clothes, and took the car key to go out. She's not the first time coming to Yayuan, and she left her phone number here. Everyone inside knows her. According to the house number given by Su Lei, Nanyin walked up the 6th floor with familiarity and quickly found the private room where they were located. Just as I pushed the door open a gap, there was a sound of voices coming from inside. "Shiyu, have you really decided to obtain a certificate from Nanyin?" Nanyin's hand as she pushed the door suddenly froze. "I don't know." The familiar and tired voice reached her ears, and Nanyin pursed her lips, feeling a bit disappointed. She had been with Chen Shiyu for 5 years, and at the request of her mother, the two had originally planned to go and get a certificate on her 25th birthday. But that day, Chen Shiyu suddenly informed her that he was going on a business trip. She understood that he was busy with work and did not mind his breaking the appointment. When he returned from his business trip, the two of them could reschedule. But now, she seemed to have faintly sensed that Chen Shiyu did not want to obtain evidence from her. "I can tell that you like Gu Ran, and Miss Gu is also interested in you. Not everyone has the opportunity to become the uncle of Rongxing Group, you must seize it." Nanyin's heart trembled as Chen Shiyu liked Gu Ran. "Yin has been with me for 5 years, and I cannot let her down. You bought a house for Nanyin for over 2 million yuan. If she didn't work with you, would she be able to afford a house in Jiangqing in her lifetime? She's using you as an ATM. If Rongxing Group hadn't injected 50 million yuan into us back then, could our company have had what it is today? If Chairman Rongxing found out that you slept with his daughter, wouldn't you have thought about the consequences? Don't forget, Rongxing now holds 30% of our equity." Nanyin pinched her fingernails into the palm of her hand and stared incredulously at the door panel of the private room. What was Su Lei saying? Did Chen Shiyu and Gu Ran have sex? How could they have gone to bed? Chen Shiyu clearly told her that Gu Ran was just a spokesperson, and their relationship was innocent. "Nanyin, why are you standing here? Why don't you go in?" Suddenly, there was a voice coming from behind. Nanyin trembled and turned her head to see Li Yun standing behind her. He and Chen Shiyu and Su Lei share the same dormitory and are also equity holders of Yunfan Group. Chen Shiyu's roommates, except for Su Lei, have a good relationship with Nanyin. Seeing that Su Nanyin was silent, Li Yun didn't notice anything strange. He pushed the door open and said with a smile, "Sure you, Nanyin has come to pick you up." A few people inside heard this sound with different expressions. Su Lei looked sarcastically at the woman behind Li Yun. Su Nanyin stood at the door and didn't go in immediately. She calmed down for about a minute before taking a deep breath and stepping on her high heels to cross over Li Yun and walk inside. She walked up to Chen Shiyu with a calm expression and said, "Did you sleep with Gu Ran?" Chen Shiyu had already panicked. Upon hearing this questioning, he quickly put down his wine glass and stood up to pull her hand. "Lei Zi is talking nonsense, don't listen to him." Su Lei sneered and said, "Sure you, since she has heard everything, why not take this opportunity to explain it clearly? Su Nanyin is not worthy of you now. Shut up." What else did Chen Shiyu want to say? Su Nanyin withdrew her hand from his hand and said, "We broke up." Throwing down these words, she turned around and walked out. Chen Shiyu didn't even think about it before chasing after her. She grabbed Su Nanyin's arm from behind and said, "Yin, listen to me explain. I was just drunk that night." Disorderly behavior after drinking. Su Nanyin still held the last glimmer of hope in her heart, hoping that he could deny it. Chen Shiyu's lips twitched and he whispered, "Just once, can you forgive me? As long as you're willing to forgive me, we'll go and get the certificate tomorrow." Even if she had an affair, the man's demeanor remained aloof, making her look like a fool for the past 5 years. Su Nanyin clenched the bag in her hand, unable to suppress the anger in her heart. Under the man's earnest gaze, she used all her strength to fiercely smash the bag into the man's face. "You go to hell. Stinky guy. Break up." This strong voice directly reached the ears of the two people who had just come out of the elevator. The two of them paused one in front of the other, their faces full of interest, enjoying the good play. Both of them are at least 1.8 meters tall, with a good figure and beautiful faces. Coupled with their naturally aristocratic temperament, they create a delightful scenery in the corridor. Noticing being watched by others, Chen Shiyu couldn't hold back his face. He covered his forehead, which had been scratched by rivets, exhausted his patience. Looking at Su Nanyin's crazy and rude appearance, he blurted out, "Su Nanyin, don't keep talking about breakups. Which man doesn't make a mistake? You're already 25 years old, can you still find someone with better conditions than me to break up with? Chen Shiyu, don't you just have a few stinky money now? I don't care, I'm 25. What's wrong with me? Even if no one wants me in my life, I won't recycle garbage like you that can't control your lower body. I'll say it again, we broke up today. Don't let me see you again in the future." "Okay, that's what you said. Don't regret it." Chen Shiyu no longer tried to stay, turned around and slammed the door back into the private room. Su Nanyin shed tears, wiped her hands, and went downstairs to find the elevator. From beginning to end, she did not notice two people standing in the other elevator. Chapter 2. Dating. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Su Nanyin didn't go to work the next day and directly sent a resignation letter to HR. She then searched for a job online and submitted several resumes. At noon, HR Xiao Zhang replied to her, saying that her resignation letter was not approved by the boss and she was given a leave of absence, allowing her to take a few days off before going to work. Su Nanyin sneered in her heart and directly printed out her resignation letter. She stepped on a 7-inch high heel and fiercely attacked Yunfan Technology. She didn't knock on the door, but pushed open the office door. Chen Shiyu handed a signed document to his secretary. When he saw her coming, he asked the secretary to go out and close the door. He put down the signature pen in his hand and pinched his nose bridge. "Didn't he give you a break? You can take advantage of this time to rest well. Sign." Su Nanyin patted her resignation letter on her desk. Chen Shiyu clenched his fingers between his eyebrows and paused. He lowered his gaze and glanced up at the woman's cold and resolute expression. His face visibly darkened, and he said, "Do you have to be so stubborn? Which man in this world doesn't cheat? I just made a mistake once, and you're going to sentence me to death." Sign. Su Nanyin didn't want to say a word more. She didn't want this dirty garbage anymore. Chen Shiyu thought he was already humble enough, but this woman showed no mercy, which made him feel frustrated and angry. He picked up a pen and signed his name on the resignation letter. Su Nanyin took her resignation letter and didn't want to stay any longer. She turned around and walked out. When she opened the door, a man's gritted teeth voice came from behind. "Su Nanyin, you will definitely regret it." Coming out of the Yunfan Technology Building, Su Nanyin emerged from her daze and anger. She looked up at the 4 big characters of Yunfan Technology above her head, where she had spent 5 years of her youth. From now on, she will bid farewell to this place completely. She broke up with Chen Shiyu. This sentence lingered in her mind twice, and the pain sensation nerves seemed sluggish and slow, finally having a response. I kept restraining myself, but at this moment, tears finally fell down. She and Chen Shiyu have been in love since college until now, and her classmates around her have all broken up since they left society. She thought they would be exceptions, but she never expected that they would also reach the stage of breaking up. They used to be so good. Su Nanyin sat at the bus stop with tears streaming down her face. 2 girls got off the bus together and saw her crying. She handed her a tissue. She said thank you. She sat alone until noon, and after sorting out her emotions, she got up and took a taxi to the hospital. In the ward. When Su Jing saw her daughter coming, her face looked a bit uneasy. Chen Shiyu hasn't come back from a business trip yet. Su Nanyin is 25 years old this year, and her mother has been urging her to get married. Therefore, she and Chen Shiyu agreed to go and collect the certificate when he comes back from his business trip, but now this certificate will definitely not be obtained. After a moment of silence, she remained honest and said, "I broke up with Chen Shiyu." Su Jing's eyelids twitched and she blurted out in a sharp voice, "Breaking up? Are you crazy? Mom, haven't you always disliked me being with him? Now that I've broken up with him, you should be happy. You're already 25 years old this year, not a 20-year-old girl. You've been talking to him for 5 years, and all your youth has been spent on him. Breaking up now, are you stupid? Who brought up this breakup?" Su Jing knows how much her daughter values this boyfriend. In the past 2 years, she watched Chen Shiyu's fame rise, but refused to give her a title and kept forcing her to break up. However, her daughter was willing to move out and refused to share the title. So she was certain that this breakup was definitely initiated by Chen Shiyu. "I brought up the breakup. Our values are different and it's not suitable for us to be married. You and he have been dating for 5 years now, and our values are different. Why did you go so long ago? Don't try to fool Mom, tell her the truth, otherwise Mom will ask herself. He doesn't want to get his certificate too early and says he wants to wait until he gets married at the age of 30. I can't afford it. 30 years old. Su Jingqi couldn't help but say, he's thinking pretty well. At 30, you're already an old girl, and giving birth to children is all about elderly mothers. He hasn't even considered you at all. Don't expect him to hurt people like this. Mom let you separate long ago. This Chen Shiyu is not a good person. He's hooked up with that female celebrity. Even if he gets a certificate from you and becomes your husband, you can't keep an eye on him. He will eventually cheat, just like your heartless father." Su Nanyin didn't answer this sentence. She opened the lids of the food boxes she had bought, placed them one by her mother's hand, and then sat down quietly to listen. Su Jing cursed for a while before turning the topic back to her daughter. "Do you remember when I told you before that Aunt Chen has a son who is 3 years older than you and looks pretty good? He doesn't have a girlfriend yet. Can you meet him? Su Nanyin said helplessly, "Mom, I just broke up. Can you let me take a few days off? Besides, I'm still young. You're already 20.5 today, still young." Su Jing couldn't help but raise her voice. Since falling ill, she has become much thinner. Her originally full and fair face seems to have lost nutrients and moisture under the torment of time and illness, revealing her high cheekbones and chin. When she gets angry, she looks particularly hysterical and harsh. The smell of disinfectant in the hospital also makes this atmosphere more oppressive. Do you know that even children your age can use soy sauce? Su Nanyin felt a little annoyed and said, "Mom, hurry up and eat. If you don't eat again, you'll get cold." Seeing that her daughter's oil and salt didn't come in, Su Jing gritted her teeth and said, "Mom hasn't lived long since she got this disease. If you don't agree to go see her, I might as well starve to death." After speaking, Su Jing pulled the blanket and lay down, with her back turned to her. Su Nanyin looked at her mother's back, feeling powerless and unsure of what to do. Finally, she could only compromise, "I can go and see, but I cannot guarantee it will be successful." Su Jing sat up with a growl and said with a smile, "It doesn't matter if it's not possible. It's just for you to meet up. There's nothing wrong with having multiple choices. Let's take our time and we'll eventually find what you like." As she spoke, she called Chen Yun and arranged a meeting location. In the coffee shop. Not long after Su Nanyin sat down, she saw a tall man coming in at the door. He was wearing an ordinary white shirt and black pants, but due to his outstanding appearance, many girls couldn't help but turn their heads and quietly glance at him wherever he passed. The man scanned around the coffee shop and took out his phone to make a phone call. Su Nanyin's phone rang, and she answered and waved to the man. He walked towards her. The closer the man approached, Su Nanyin stared at the sharp and angular face, her heart beating 2 points faster unconsciously. This blind date was actually more beautiful than in the photo. The man came to the table and looked down at her, as if he remembered something. He asked meaningfully, "Su Nanyin." Chapter 3. Flash Marriage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Su Nanyin didn't notice the man's gaze at her. She nodded lightly and said, "Are you Shenyi?" Shenyi nodded before taking his seat across from her. "What would you like to drink?" Su Nanyin handed him the menu. Shenyi didn't look and directly asked the waiter for a cup of American coffee. After waiting for her to leave, his dark and sharp eyes turned towards her. When facing the man's gaze, Su Nanyin unconsciously sat up straight, feeling a bit uneasy, as if the person sitting opposite was not her blind date, but her boss. She is also on her first blind date and doesn't know what to say. "Miss Su, we are quite destined." Shenyi looked at the confusion in the girl's eyes and knew that she probably didn't see her last night. "Miss Su, did you bring your household registration book?" Su Nanyin. Since we are based on getting married, I don't think we need to waste time. Aunt Su should have told you about my situation. Since Miss Su is willing to come out, she doesn't have any dissatisfaction with me. I am also quite satisfied with Miss Su. If possible, I would like to go and get the certificate now. Su Nanyin was originally planning to come out to meet and deal with her mother, but she never expected that this man would have to go with her to obtain a certificate as soon as he met, which was a bit. Shenyi saw that she remained silent and continued, "We are all adults now. After marriage, I can guarantee loyalty to Miss Su and pay her salary. Do Miss Su still have any concerns?" Upon hearing the words, loyalty, Su Nanyin was somewhat moved. Thinking of her 5 years of youth feeding her dog, she actually had no energy to talk about a second relationship. Who is not married to? Su Nanyin is very clear in her heart that she refused this time and will have to continue blind dates in the future. Chen Shiyu said she couldn't find someone with better conditions than him, so now she's looking for someone who looks handsome than him. Impulsively, Su Nanyin got into the man's car and went back to get her household registration book. After the car arrived at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau and parked, her rationality slightly returned, and she even retreated a bit. Will this be too fast? Shenyi got off the car first and walked around the front to open the passenger door for her. At this point, she can only grit her teeth and go down. Let's go. The man was the first to walk to the certification hall. His legs were long and he walked fast, and Su Nanyin could only keep up with him by running a little. Mr. Shen, can I ask you a question? Shenyi stopped in his tracks and said, have you changed your mind? Su Nanyin hesitated for a moment, shook her head, and looked at the handsome and incomparable face in front of her. She thought that if she refused this time, she wouldn't be able to find someone with better conditions than him in the future. Just a little uneasy in my heart. She spoke up, your salary is quite high. With all your qualifications, if you want to get married, you shouldn't drag it on until now. Is there any hidden danger? Ms. Su Jing has told her that her blind date is someone who specializes in technology, probably a matchmaker, earning a monthly salary of 20,000 to 30,000 yuan. Although she has never been on a blind date before, she is also aware of the salary situation in Jiangqing. This salary plus skin bag should be a coveted item among the blind date army. I don't have much interest in women. Su Nanyin always felt that there was something in these words, are you gay? Even if she was disappointed with love, she never considered becoming the same wife. Gay. The man raised his eyebrows, obviously not understanding. It means liking men. That's not true. Su Nanyin breathed a sigh of relief, feeling a bit puzzled. Mr. Shen just said that. I'm very busy with work and don't have much time to spend with you. Do you mind? Don't mind. Su Nanyin almost blurted out without thinking about it, which really meets her requirements. Seeing the undisguised joy in the woman's eyes, Shenyi frowned without a trace and said, let's go then. In the afternoon, the weather was hot and there were few people obtaining the certificate. They quickly processed it. Looking at the freshly released marriage certificate, Su Nanyin felt a bit dazed. She really got married, with the man next to her. As she walked out of the certification hall, Shenyi handed her a bank card. This is my salary card, with a password of 6 ones. You can spend the money on the card as you please. I still have a job and can't accompany you. You go back first, and I'll find you later. Su Nanyin was slightly taken aback, and when she realized it, Shenyi stopped a taxi on the roadside and left. She looked down at the bank card in her hand, feeling a bit unreal. This man was too conscious. Once, she and her best friend Yi Qiu talked about whether their husband's salary should be paid after marriage, and almost got into an argument. She felt that they could share the burden of married life, and the woman was also making money. There was no need to ask the man to pay the salary card. Of course, it is necessary for the family to invest, and the man must bear the main part. However, Yi Qiu believes that the man's salary must be fully paid in, and if a man has money, it will deteriorate. This is an eternal bad habit. Although not every man will do this, being willing to pay in salary is also a way to assess whether a man is worth entrusting for life. Now it seems that her husband has a good character. Su Nanyin's mouth curved slightly, and her mood rarely improved. She planned to take a photo of her marriage certificate and send it to Yi Qiu to give her a surprise. Just then the phone suddenly rang, it was a call coming in. Seeing the number of the hospital nurse station displayed on the screen, Su Nanyin felt inexplicably flustered and quickly answered the call. In the ward. As soon as Su Nanyin entered the door, she sensed a low pressure and saw a mess on the ground, with glass shards and water scattered everywhere. My mother sat alone on the hospital bed with her back to her, not moving at all. Su Nanyin felt very anxious and quickly walked over. Mom, what's wrong with you? Why are you discharged? Su Jing is currently in the early stage of gastric cancer, and the chances of treatment are high. The hospital arranged by Su Nanyin for her mother is the best tertiary hospital in Jiangcheng, with a professional team and experienced professors. They waited for a full month before moving in and have already made an appointment for surgery this weekend. If discharged at this time, I don't know when the next schedule will be. Su Jing finally had a reaction when she heard her daughter's voice. She looked up, tears streaming down her face, and trembled in her voice, asking, "Is that female celebrity Xia Rou's daughter?" Su Nanyin was taken aback for a moment. She was familiar with the name Xia Rou and knew that Xia Rou was a taboo for Su Jing, so she refused to mention it. "Answer me, is that Gu Ran Xia Rou's daughter?" Su Jing suddenly raised her voice to question her daughter. Su Nanyin pursed her lips and let out a gentle hum. "She only found out last night." Su Lei said that Gu Ran is the eldest lady of Rongsheng Group. "You broke up with Chen Shiyu, was this breakup brought up by Chen Shiyu?" Su Nanyin looked at her mother's expression of wanting to eat her and explained, "He had an affair, but I brought it up to break up. I dumped him." She hoped her mother would feel better when she heard these words, but Su Jing couldn't accept this fact. "Chen Shiyu was with her, so Xia Rou took my husband and her daughter took my daughter's boyfriend." Chapter 4. Meeting on a Narrow Path. You are listening at novelfull.audio. "Mom, didn't you say that even if I obtained a certificate from Chen Shiyu, I couldn't control him? He would have cheated sooner or later. Isn't it good for me to break up with him and stop the loss in time now? But how could you lose to Xia Rou's daughter?" Su Jing grabbed the clothes on her chest, her eyes full of pain. In recent years, she had never come out of that failed marriage. She thought that by cultivating her daughter well enough, she could straighten her waist and one day stand tall in front of that woman, showing Gu Tianhui and the old man that she was no worse than that woman. Without a man, she can still live. But she never expected that her proud daughter would lose to Xia Rou's daughter again. This is crushing Su Jing's last bit of dignity on the ground, which is even more painful than killing her. Su Nanyin is aware of her mother's pain and humiliation, because she makes her mother recall those bad past events, and she is also very self-blaming. She sat down next to her mother and reached out to embrace her, gently caressing her back. "Mom, I haven't lost to her, except for Chen Shiyu. I won't lose to her in anything else," she said at this moment. Su Jing couldn't listen at all. She kept crying about the grievances and pain she had suffered over the years. She cried that she shouldn't have taken her daughter out of the Gu family and lived a difficult life with her. If her daughter was still raised in the Gu family, even if she couldn't compare to Xia Rosheng's son Jin Gui, at least she was the true eldest lady of the Gu family. If her daughter was Gu Nanyin, not Su Nanyin, how could Chen Shiyu break up with her? It's all her fault, she shouldn't be so selfish, it's her fault for her daughter. Su Nanyin didn't know what to do, so she could only wait quietly for her mother to vent. When she was tired and stopped her voice, she helped her mother to lie down on the bed and tucked her in. When her mother fell asleep, she got up and started cleaning with a broom. After cleaning up the ward, she sat down, picked up her phone, clicked on Weibo, and saw the hot search on Weibo. After Su Nanyin was admitted to college, she was afraid that her mother would be too lonely, so she used the money from her summer part-time job to buy a smartphone for her mother to chat, video, and watch TV shows. Su Jing has a fast learning ability. She knows how to play with things that young people play with and enjoys playing with them. After being hospitalized, there were not many people in the hospital chatting with her, so she passed the time by browsing Weibo and WeChat. Su Nanyin never expected that she would only go to handle her resignation in the morning, drawing a clear line with that scumbag Chen Shiyu. In the afternoon, he and Gu Ran officially announced it. Xia Rou, the once stunning first goddess in the entertainment industry, immediately liked and forwarded a Weibo post expressing her blessings for her daughter's official love, and also followed Chen Shiyu. As is well known, Xia Rou had already married into a wealthy family, so the identity of Miss Gu Ran Rongsheng was naturally exposed. Miss X, who indulges in recklessness and ventures into the entertainment industry, is a self-made tech tycoon. This should be the most surprising and promising couple in the entertainment industry in recent years. If Su Nanyin is not her ex-girlfriend, she should also bless them. My heart was throbbing with pain again. Su Nanyin switched directly to WeChat and planned to clean up her social circle. At this moment, Yi Qiu's phone came. As soon as she connected, she roared, "Damn it, Yining, did you see Weibo? Chen Qiu actually announced to that Gu Ran that he is your boyfriend. What do you mean by that?" Su Nanyin glanced at her sleeping mother, grabbed her phone, got up and walked out of the hospital room. After closing the door, she whispered, "I broke up with him." Breaking up? Is that bastard cheating? Chen Qiu, this slut. When you were with him, he had nothing. Now that he's rich, he's just indulging in promiscuity. Nanyin, we can't let these two sluts go. Let's expose them on Weibo. I'll help you hang up. Su Nanyin closed her eyes and said, "You can't hang up. My mom is going to have surgery soon, and I don't want her to be disturbed. Can we just let them go like this? Yining, I'm really not worth it for you. I can't swallow this breath." How could she swallow this breath? But now, she only wants her mother to have a successful surgery, and she can only think about other things later, afraid of stimulating her mother. Returning to the ward, Su Nanyin put her phone back into her bag. Seeing the marriage certificate in her bag, she immediately felt a headache and didn't know how to tell her mother about it. With her mother in her current state, if she knew she was getting married suddenly, she would definitely not be able to accept it. After thinking for a moment, Su Nanyin found Shenye's phone number and dialed him over. Just the phone kept ringing and no one answered. I hit the second one, but it's still like this. He's really busy. She sighed in her heart and edited a text message. "Mr. Shen, can we not mention the issue of our certification to our elders for now? My mother has surgery on the weekend, and I want to tell her after the surgery." After sending it over, she held her phone and waited for a while, but didn't see a reply before putting it back. In the afternoon, Su Nanyin went to the supermarket to buy ingredients, cooked soup at home, and made a few dishes that Su Jing likes to eat. She took them to the hospital in an insulated bucket. Pushing open the door of the ward, I saw my mother still lying in bed, with her eyes closed and motionless. She didn't take a bite of the rice she bought at noon. Su Nanyin tidied up the cooled dishes and changed the water in the thermos. My phone suddenly rang. She put down the water bottle and quickly took it out of her bag to take a look. The screen displayed the 4 words, "Blind date." She left the ward with her phone in hand, and as she closed the door to answer, she placed the phone in her ear. The man first spoke, "My mom wants to have dinner with you. Do you have time tonight?" Su Nanyin nodded loudly and said, "Mr. Shen, didn't you see the text message I sent you?" After a moment of silence, he said, "I told my mom you're my girlfriend now." The 3 words, "girlfriend," gently brushed over her heart like feathers, calming Su Nanyin's anxious mood. She had originally intended to refuse the meal, but thought he had to explain it to his mother, so she changed her mind and said, "I have time tonight, but my mother may not be able to go. She needs surgery on the weekend, and the doctor won't let her go. Can I go alone?" "Sure, I'm a bit busy right now. I'll pick you up later." "No need, tell me the location so I can take a taxi myself." Red Mansion is a famous Chinese restaurant in Jiangqing. Su Nanyin went home, changed into clothes, put on exquisite makeup, and walked into the door at the agreed time. Shenyi booked a private room, and when she reported her phone number, a female server wearing a qipao led her upstairs. As soon as you arrive on the 7th floor and step out of the elevator, you will see a hall with a red carpet winding to the end. The walls on both sides are adorned with Chinese ink paintings by famous artists, and rows of red lanterns are hanging above your head, which is very beautiful. It's not her first time here, but it's her first time on this floor. It's said to be the VIP floor, and spending must start at 8,000 yuan. Su Nanyin remembers Yi Qiu's saying, "Does a person value you?" From daily details, it can be seen that she should have come with her mother now. Shen Yi set the first meeting place for the two families here, which shows that he values their marriage very much in his heart. The lingering and regretful feeling in Su Nanyin's heart dissipated in this moment. "Madam Gu, don't be polite later. Whatever you like to eat, don't save me money. Also, Ran, you're too thin. You'll eat more bird's nest and shark's fin later and take good care of it." The voice of a woman familiar with the heat of the heart reached Su Nanyin's ears. She paused and looked up to see a group of people walking towards her. Chapter 5, Let me introduce you to my boyfriend. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xia Rou's mother and daughter, as well as Chen Shiyu's mother Yao Hui. Yao Hui happened to see Su Nanyin at this moment, and her face changed slightly. She stopped and said, "Su Nanyin, why are you here?" The mother and daughter next to them also stopped and looked over. Gu Ran is wearing the latest black dress from Xiangjia this spring, with sunglasses on her face, fashionable and exquisite. Her mother, Xia Rou, is wearing a custom-made qipao and a jade Buddha statue in imperial green around her neck. Due to proper maintenance, her skin is still fair and delicate, and her curled hair is not even white, giving her an elegant and noble appearance. Standing with her daughter, those who do not know them will think they are two sisters. Su Nanyin calculated that she and her mother were kicked out of the Gu family gate 20 years ago. Over the years, both she and her mother have changed. She has grown up, and her mother has aged. However, now she has found that the third child who intervenes in her parents' relationship has remained unchanged in these years. This made her feel a bit indescribable discomfort. Yao Hui saw Su Nanyin staring at Gu Ran, thinking she was here to cause trouble. She harshly warned, "Su Nanyin, I can tell you that my son has already broken up with you. Don't keep pestering me. As long as I live, I won't let you enter the door of our Chen family. I only recognize Ran as my daughter. Law. If you dare to cause trouble today, I can't spare you." Su Nanyin was drawn back to her thoughts by this sound and looked at Yao Hui. When she went home with Chen Shiyu for the first time, she ate leftovers. Chen Shiyu told her that his father died early, and how difficult it was for his mother. But later on, the conditions improved, and she took Ms. Su Jing to eat with them. Yao Hui took them into a fly restaurant and ordered less than 100 yuan worth of food. At that time, Chen Shiyu told her that his mother was used to saving money. Thinking of these, Su Nanyin suddenly felt a bit nauseous in her heart. She understood that Yao Hui didn't like her, but she never expected that she would just break up with Chen Shiyu last night. Today, Chen Shiyu announced it to Gu Ran, and his mother can't wait to schedule a meal with someone. Is this afraid that her son won't become the uncle of Romshan Group? Su Nanyin smiled slightly and said, "Auntie, why do you think I'm here for Chen Shiyu? We've already broken up, and I dumped him. I don't have the habit of picking up the garbage I threw away." Upon hearing these words, Yao Hui exploded and said, "Su Nanyin, you slut, you dare to call my son trash. How did Su Jing teach you? You're so uncivilized." Upon hearing the word Su Jing, Xia Rou's eyelids twitched and she looked sharply at Su Nanyin. "My mother has taught me so well. If she doesn't teach me well, I will definitely be stingy. If I expose Chen Shiyu's infidelity on Weibo, my aunt will definitely not be able to spare me even more." Yao Hui jumped and said, "How dare you? Su Nanyin, as a girl, one should still have a good face." Gu Ran took off his sunglasses and looked at her with haughty and contemptuous eyes. Su Nanyin looked at her and smiled faintly, without any warmth in her eyes. "I don't think Miss Gu is qualified to say this to me," she said. Gu Ran frowned, not feeling at all that she was wrong. She lifted the corner of her lips and said proudly, "Chen Shiyu said he has never liked you before. The person he likes is me. Being with you for 5 years is also because you have paid a lot for him. He is very grateful to you, but it is not enough to rely solely on one person's efforts when two people are together. Love does not come first, and the person who is not loved is the third person. The one who is not loved is the mistress. 20 years later, Su Nanyin heard this absurd statement again. In her mind came the hardships and pains of her mother over the years. Ms. Su Jing still couldn't let go of that failed marriage, while the person who hurt her had no guilt at all. Even her daughter believes in the supremacy of true love. Su Nanyin couldn't contain her anger anymore and sneered, "It's you who seduced married men, and it's also you who have a relationship with a man who has a girlfriend. If I were you, I would be ashamed to hide and not provoke the victim." Mud figurines have a third nature. Miss Gu relies on being a public figure with many fans. Can we confuse black and white, right? The more she spoke, the worse Gu Ran's face deteriorated. By the time Su Nanyin finished speaking, her face had deteriorated to the point where she couldn't look. Xia Ro beside her was not a fool either. She could naturally hear the girl pointing fingers and cursing. Thinking of her mother's name as Su Jing, and looking at this familiar face, she already had a clear understanding of who this girl was in her heart. "Su Nanyin, do you know who I am? You dare to offend me, I." Ran, stop talking. Xia Ro interrupted her daughter's words. Gu Ran stomped her feet in anger and said, "Mom, you didn't hear what she said about me just now. I must make her look good." Xia Ro looked at Su Nanyin with caution and said, "You said you didn't come here for Chen Shiyu. So who did you arrange to meet here with? Is it Gu Tianhui or Mr. Gu?" Su Nanyin pursed her lips and was about to speak when a hand suddenly landed on her head. "Why are you still standing here?" She was taken aback for a moment, reflexively turning her head and bumping into a pair of dark and deep eyes. The man had a perfectly crafted face, slender and straight, even wearing simple white clothes and black pants, not a famous brand. Standing calmly behind her, he exuded a masculine aura. Looking at the upside-down face in front of her, Su Nanyin's first reaction was that he was really much more handsome than Chen Shiyu. Her body precedes consciousness. By the time she reacted, she had naturally taken a step back, grabbed the man's arm, raised her chin towards the other person, rolled up the corners of her lips, and smiled brightly and sweetly, "Let me introduce you to you. This is my boyfriend." When Gu Ran saw Xin Yi, her expression changed a bit. She grew up in the United States and was accustomed to the tall stature of Western men. After returning to China, many men looked down on her and finally found Chen Shiyu. He is tall and handsome, which fits her eye well, so even if she knew he had a girlfriend, she still snatched him over. She thought Chen Shiyu was already considered excellent among all the men she had ever met. Now that Su Nanyin has only been breaking up with Chen Shiyu for a day and has found a man who is even taller and more handsome than Chen Shiyu, how can she balance her mind? "Are you really her boyfriend?" Gu Ran asked Xin Yi this question. She doesn't believe Su Nanyin has such good luck. Chapter 6. Meeting Grandma. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Su Nanyin raised her head to look at the handsome profile of the man. Even though she and he had already obtained a certificate, he should have called her husband in name now. But after all, the two only met today. She is now holding him in front of her ex-boyfriend's current girlfriend to show off. Will he feel uncomfortable? Not willing to cooperate with her? Her heart pounded and she stared at the man's thin lips for a moment, afraid of hearing the word "no" from his mouth. As if sensing her gaze, the man lowered his gaze and glanced at her. Suddenly, he pulled down her hand that was holding his arm. As Su Nanyin was awkwardly about to retract it, he grabbed her palm and firmly held it in his big palm. The warm and dry palms made her heart almost jump to her throat. Her fair and delicate cheeks were instantly covered with a faint blush, and her cheeks were burning hot. "Let's go." Xin Yi ignored Gu Ran and didn't even glance at her, leading Su Nanyin past them. Su Nanin's anxious emotions were soothed by the man like this. It was the first time Gu Ran had met a man who dared to ignore her like this. She was so angry that she gritted her teeth, but had to admit that this man's appearance was really outstanding. Just a boyfriend, she doesn't believe Su Nanyin can hold on. Su Nanyin followed the man's footsteps and walked a short distance, feeling dizzy and nervous. She tried to pull her hand back several times, but dared not move until they reached the entrance of a private room. The man opened the door with his other hand and Su Nanyin saw Aunt Chen sitting inside. Her desire to withdraw her hand was immediately cut off. Chen Yuni saw them come in and immediately stood up, smiling kindly and warmly. "You're here." "Hello, Auntie." Su Nanyin obediently called out. "Hey, good." Chen Yun responded heavily, looking at the girl's delicate and charming appearance, and seeing the two people holding hands together, her smile became even brighter. She quickly greeted her and said, "Come, Miss Su, come and sit down. You're hungry. There's a menu here, you can order whatever you want." Shen Yi led Su Nanyin over, and when Su Nanyin was about to take her seat, he pulled open the chair for her. Su Nanyin paused for a moment and looked up at the man. He did this very naturally, making people feel his ingrained thoughtfulness and meticulousness. After taking her seat, Shen Yi sat beside her and Aunt Chen handed her the menu to order. Su Nanyin opened the menu and saw the exquisite dishes in the picture. She sighed at the feeling of being valued, but glanced down at the prices below the picture and felt that these dishes were not so delicious anymore. A cup of juice can actually sell for 588 yuan, isn't that a money grab? From the first page to the last, Su Nanyin pondered over the price, and finally ordered a cup of green vegetables and lean meat congee, as well as 2 fresh and mild fried dishes, 1 steamed dish, and then handed the menu to Aunt Chen. "Auntie, I've finished ordering. You can order it." Chen Yunlai had already looked at the menu before and knew that the prices on it were very expensive and not cost-effective. However, in order to avoid losing face for her son, she symbolically flipped through a few pages and saw that the dishes selected by Su Nanyin were very suitable for her to eat. Chen Yun remembers that young people nowadays like to eat spicy dishes, so she added 2 more meat dishes. Take a look and see if you have anything you want to eat. Mom's here to treat you to this meal, you can order whatever you want." Chen Yun handed the menu to her son. Shen Yi directly called the waiter and added a few dishes in front of the two of them. Su Nanyin had a good memory and recognized that the dishes ordered by Shen Yi were the most expensive in that menu. She immediately said, "The 3 of us can't finish them all." Shen Ye's black eyes glanced at her and closed the menu. "That's all." After the waiter took out the menu, the private room quieted down for a while. Su Nanyin felt a bit hesitant and didn't know what to say. "Miss Su." Chen Yun smiled and took her hand. "I'll call you Yinin, you know what? The first time I saw you, I hoped you could be my daughter. Law. I didn't expect this wish to finally come true now. Auntie is really happy." Su Nanyin looked at Aunt Chen's unabashed love for her in her eyes, feeling a bit flattered. She couldn't help but think that the two had only met once. When Aunt Chen had low blood sugar and was met by her and her mother, she only helped buy bread and water and sat with her for a while. The elders in front of her kept her in mind and wanted her to be her daughter. Law. And she has been with Chen Shiyu for 5 years, caring about Yao Hui. Every time she goes to the hospital, she accompanies her, and for so many years, she hasn't seen any positive expression from Yao Hui towards her. In the past, she used to think that life was meant for 2 people. Even if Yao Hui didn't like her, as long as she and Chen Shiyu believed that they were each other, she now deeply understood her mother's good intentions. "Auntie, I would also be happy to be your daughter. Law. If your mother becomes my in-laws, we won't have to worry about no one to talk to in the future." Chen Yun sighed and then changed the tone, asking with concern, "She didn't come today. I heard she's going to have surgery this weekend." What disease did she get? Your mother is really amazing. She didn't even reveal a word to me on the phone. If I had known earlier, I would have gone to see her. Su Nanyin looked at Aunt Chen and knew that no matter how good the male parents were, when she heard that the female parents were sick, there would always be some considerations, especially when it came to major illnesses like stomach cancer. Before Su Nanyin and Xinyi obtained the certificate, they had not told him about her mother's illness. At this thought, she felt a bit nervous and even guilty. After hesitating for a while, she didn't choose to hide it and answered honestly, "My mom has stomach cancer." As soon as she finished speaking, she stared at Aunt Chen's face, afraid that she would show a shocked and angry expression, saying that she had deceived his son and had not made it clear before dating. But Aunt Chen's face was only shocked and not angry. She said in pain, "How could it be stomach cancer? Didn't I see her in good spirits before? It was discovered during the physical examination, and it is said to be early and can be cured." Aunt Chen wiped her eyes and patted Su Nanyin's hand, saying, "It's really hard of you. If you need any help in the future, you can let I run for you and rest more." This was different from what Su Nanyin had anticipated. She stared blankly at the elders in front of her, her slightly red eyes touching her heart. Ever since she found out that her mother had stomach cancer, Su Nanyin's brain and nerves have been tense and under great mental pressure. She remembered telling Chen Shiyu about her mother's illness, but Chen Shiyu never visited her mother on the grounds of being busy with work. Later, she heard him argue with Yao Hui, who said that cancer is a bottomless pit that cannot be cured, and that cancer can be contagious. Her mother has stomach cancer, and she will also get it. The children she will have in the future will not be healthy either. Su Nanyin thought for a moment, and it seemed that Chen Shiyu had been indifferent to her since then. Thinking of this, she turned her head to look at the man next to her, wanting to see his attitude. Chapter 7, Su Nanyin, you must have read me too low. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The man was just bowing his head and handling things with his phone, as if he hadn't heard their conversation at all. Which hospital is your mother staying at? I'll go see her tomorrow. No need, Auntie. I don't have much to do every day now. I haven't seen her for a long time, it's strange. Su Nanyin still provided the address where her mother was hospitalized. Are you Dr. Yang who made an appointment? He used to see Aunt Zhang in our community for more than 10 years, and now she is still in good health. We made an appointment with Dr. Wang, and the hospital said that Dr. Yang has been to the capital for academic exchange during this period and will not be able to return until 3 months later. Ah, it's a pity. Dr. Wang's fame is not as great as Dr. Yang's. His medical skills should not be as good as Dr. Yang's. Why don't you wait anymore? I originally wanted to wait, but the hospital said that Dr. Yang is getting older and basically doesn't go out for consultations. Dr. Wang is his disciple, and the feedback from the surgeries he has done over the years is also quite good. That shouldn't be a problem, don't worry too much. Your mother, Ji Ren, has her own destiny and will definitely be cured. Su Nanyin wanted to express her mother-in-law's kindness towards her. Although she and Xinyi had a flash marriage, she would work hard to live a good life with him in the future. After planning for the future, she relaxed a lot and had endless conversations with Aunt Chen. Xinyi sat next to the two of them without interrupting, only occasionally adding water when the teacup was empty. This meal was very comfortable. When leaving, Qinyun planned to settle the bill, but was told that it had already been settled. She looked at her son with a resentful look and held Su Nanyin's hand, saying, "My son is very filial and talented. Those who raise sons in our community are not doing as well as me. Auntie can assure you that if you marry my son, he will definitely treat you well." As a girlfriend, Su Nanyin praised her boyfriend and said, "I is very considerate. He's just dumbfounded. If he could speak, he wouldn't have dragged on until this age." Qinyun pulled Su Nanyin downstairs and said with a smile as she entered the elevator, "But my son also has a high vision. It wasn't that no girl was willing to talk to him before, it was he who refused. Now that we are going on a blind date, you have already established a relationship on the first day. This shows that you are in his eye and you have fate. So, when it's time for fate, you can start doing what needs to be done earlier. While Auntie is still active, when you have children, you can also take care of them. No matter what Aunt Chen said, Su Nanyin listened obediently without refuting, which made Chin-yun feel even better. Even when her son stopped and she got off the car, she didn't forget to turn her head and let Su Nanyin have time to go to her place for dinner. She cooked delicious food for her. Aunt Chen lived not far from the hospital, and the car stopped after driving for more than 10 minutes. Su Nanyin was sitting in the passenger seat, originally planning to get off the car, but what came to her mind was that she sat back and looked at the person in the driver's seat, saying, "I'm sorry." The man turned his head to look at her. His eyes were dark and profound, and his face had no emotions. He had always been a gentleman in front of her. After spending the whole day together, Su Nanyin felt that he was really a good marriage partner. However, her mother has early gastric cancer and although it can be cured, she also needs to take medication for a follow-up examination after surgery. Although she can bear the cost alone, the doctor has said that there is still a possibility of recurrence after gastric cancer surgery. He must also know this common sense. Aunt Chen doesn't mind, but Shen Yi is the one who obtained the certificate from her, and she should also give him the right to make a choice. After pondering for a while, Su Nanyin spoke softly, "If you mind my mother's matter, I can go and divorce you tomorrow. I won't burden you." Shen Ye's eyes darkened and his face turned a bit unpleasant. "You're getting divorced after only one day of obtaining the certificate. I didn't make it clear to you before, this is considered a fraudulent marriage." Shen Yi looked quietly at the girl in front of him, her eyes clear and stubborn. He could tell from last night that she was a very independent girl. After a moment of silence, the man suddenly asked, "If my mother had cancer, would you now demand a divorce from me?" Su Nanyin instinctively shook her head, but after shaking it, she seemed to know his answer. Looking at the surprise in the girl's eyes, Shen Yi casually tugged her lower lip and said, "You won't divorce me, how come you think I want to divorce you?" "Su Nanyin, you're looking at me too low." This is the second time Su Nanyin has heard him call her by name and surname. Compared to the first time, his tone has noticeably increased this time. Is he angry? Su Nanyin looked at him, unsure of what to say, and then said sorry. "In the future, I hope Miss Su can tell me directly about anything and not talk about divorce." Shen Yi paused for a moment before continuing, "Since I have decided to obtain the certificate from you, I have not considered divorce. I hope Miss Su can also hold a responsible attitude and not say the word divorce again." Su Nanyin let out a soft As soon as her voice fell, Shen Ye's phone rang. Su Nanyin whispered, "I'll go down first, please be careful." After speaking, she opened the car door and got off. Returning to the hospital, Su Nanyin did not immediately go upstairs. Instead, she sat on a bench downstairs and didn't get up until 10:30 p.m. Pushing open the door of the ward, she breathed a sigh of relief as she saw that all the food in the insulated bucket had been finished. She tucked in her mother's blanket and sat in front of the hospital bed for half an hour before leaving. In order to cover the cost of her mother's subsequent treatment, Su Nanyin dared not rest and went to the company recommended by Yi Qiu for an interview the next day. The interview was very pleasant, and she was admitted on the spot. She was asked to come to the company tomorrow to sign a contract, and the salary she received was 5,000 more than Su Nanyin had expected. This made her very happy. As soon as she walked out of the building, she called Yi Qiu to arrange a meal. Just the phone hasn't been dialed yet when a familiar number comes in. Su Nanyin had already deleted Chen Shiyu's phone number, but 5 years of memory made her know who it was when the phone screen lit up, even if there were no notes, just a string of numbers. She didn't answer, cut it off directly, and decisively pulled the number black. After arranging a meal with Yi Qiu, Su Nanyin called a car to the agreed location when suddenly her phone rang again. It's Tang Ling's phone number. Tang Ling is a colleague and friend of Su Nanyin in Yunfan. She is 1 year older than her. Previously, she was on a business trip with Chen Xiyu and received a call from the police station, saying that her mother was hit by a motorcycle. At that time, she couldn't come back, so Tang Ling went to help her deal with it. Thinking of this, she didn't hang up and clicked to answer. Su Nanyin, do you have a boyfriend now? Chen Shiyu's irritable and angry questioning sounded from that end. Su Nanyin pursed her lips, not surprised. She lightly emphasized, Chen Shiyu, we have already broken up. I told you, we don't want to meet again, and please don't call me again in the future. Su Nanyin, you haven't answered my question yet. Do you have a boyfriend? Su Nanyin did not deny, yes. We only broke up for a day, and you already have a new love. Did you hook up with him long ago, that's why you're breaking up with me? Chapter 8. A qualified ex should be like dead. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Su Nanyin didn't expect Chen Shiyu to blame her for all the mistakes now. Su Nanyin, why don't you dare to answer? Did I get it right? It's false that you only like me, but in fact, you betrayed me long ago. It's you who apologized to me. Whatever you think. Su Nanyin took a deep breath and suppressed the rushing emotions in her heart. She didn't want to talk to him anymore, nor did she want to defend herself. She just said coldly, Chen Shiyu, a qualified ex should be like dead. Don't let me look down on you. After speaking, she cut off the phone and hesitated for a while, but still didn't block the number. Fortunately, the phone didn't ring anymore. After finishing their meal, Su Nanyin and Yi Qiu returned to the hospital. After standing at the entrance of the ward for a while, she gathered the courage to grab the door handle and open it. Mom, I brought you lunch over. But the ward is empty and empty. Su Nanyin was in a panic and turned around to go out and search. At this moment, Su Jing happened to come in from outside and saw her daughter coming. A smile appeared on her face and she said, Yin. Mom, where did you go? Su Nanyin's brain was tense, afraid that her mother might have an accident. Su Jing smiled and said, take Aunt Chen downstairs and chat with her for a while. She just left. Su Nanyin only noticed the smile on her mother's face when she heard the 3 words, Aunt Chen. I heard from Aunt Chen that you and Xinyi get along quite well. Su Nanyin looked at the joy on her mother's face. Since her physical examination revealed stomach cancer, her mother had not laughed like this for a long time. Are you really dating now? Even though she heard Chen Yun say how good and well matched the 2 children were, Su Jing still felt a bit uneasy in her heart. She went to see each other and the 2 confirmed their relationship as boyfriend and girlfriend. Isn't it too fast? After all, her daughter had just broken up with that Chen Shiyu, and she was afraid that her daughter would be upset because of the breakup. Although Su Jing forced her daughter to go on a blind date, she just wanted her daughter to see a few more while she could still choose, so that she could make a choice instead of casually finding someone to be with. Mom, Shen Yeren is quite good. Su Nanyin paused for a moment and quickly added, we are dating on the premise of getting married. Is it really because of good people? Isn't it because Mom forced you to go on a blind date? Su Nanyin was indeed afraid of being forced into a blind date, so she agreed to a flash marriage, but such a big truth, she definitely cannot tell Ms. Su Jing. I'm not that foolish. I'm going to be with someone I don't like just to get angry with you. Su Nanyin looked at her mother's suspicious eyes and said, I think if I miss Xin Ye's condition, I won't be able to find a second one even with a lantern in the future. After all, if you don't look at value-added wages, it's 1 in a million to just focus on Xin Ye's skin bag. Su Nanyin is also a layman. People always have a good impression of beautiful things, and she is no exception. Look at how you praise him, he's just that good. Su Jing has already seen Xin Ye's photos, and she looks really good. Her job is also good, and Chen-yun said that the child is stable and there are no opposite sexes around her, which makes her even more satisfied. Even if I'm 25 now, my vision is still very high. Su Nanyin's words successfully made her mother laugh. Su Jing's hanging heart finally settled down. Mom, this pork rib soup tastes great. Try it. Su Jing took the bowl handed over by her daughter and took 2 sips, feeling relieved. After Mom's surgery is completed, bring him over and show him to Mom. Mom will keep an eye on him for you. Okay. Su Nanyin accompanied her mother to dinner and told her about finding a new job. Her salary also increased by 50 yuan, which made Su Jing extremely happy. I had a clean lunch this afternoon. My mother is in a good mood, and Su Nanyin is also happy. But she didn't expect this happiness to last long. The next day, she went to the new company to handle the onboarding procedures, but was told that after evaluation by the company, she was not suitable for their position, so she couldn't sign a contract with her. Su Nanyin didn't expect that something that was already certain could change, but it was the decision of her company. Perhaps she had hired a better and more suitable employee than her, so she couldn't help it. Su Nanyin opened her email and saw that there were several replies to the resumes she submitted the day before yesterday. She immediately contacted the other party. Sorry, Miss Su, we have already recruited someone for this position. Please take a look at other companies. She made 4 consecutive phone calls, and all 4 companies received the same response. No matter how foolish Su Nanyin was, she realized something strange was going on. The last phone call she made was that the company replied to her email at 10 o'clock this morning. Su Nanyin felt that she shouldn't think too badly of people, but Su Nanyin dialed Tang Ling's phone. Tang Ling knew about her breakup with Chen Shiyu, and also knew that Chen Shiyu was now with the big star Gu Ran. She felt sorry for Su Nanyin. The two had worked together for 3 years, and she didn't hide anything. She told her about Chen Shiyu's greetings to other companies this morning. Su Nanyin was so angry that she pulled out Chen Shiyu's number from the blacklist and made a phone call. But the phone kept ringing, didn't hang up, and no one answered. It's like this for 2 in a row. Su Nanyin didn't know, Chen Shiyu did it on purpose. She didn't take the 3rd call and stopped the taxi directly. Yunfan Technology. Su Nanyin was furious and wanted to confront Chen Shiyu, but the front desk said she had resigned and refused to clean the elevator for her. Su Nanyin originally wanted to call Tang Ling, but thought that Chen Shiyu was the boss and she couldn't let Tang Ling lose this job, so she suppressed this impulse. If she doesn't let him go up, she will wait below, and she won't believe him and won't come down. This is the time for lunch break. Su Nanyin didn't wait long before Chen Shiyu came out of the elevator, along with Gu Ran. Today, she was wearing a pink V-neck dress, elegant and sexy. Su Nanyin rushed up a few steps and blocked the way for the two of them. Chen Shiyu saw her appearance without any surprise, with a cold and distant expression on his face. However, Gu Ran's face didn't look very good and he shouted loudly, "Su Nanyin, what are you doing?" Her sound caused other people who were about to go out to eat from the elevator to stop and look over. Su Nanyin ignored Gu Ran and stared at Chen Shiyu with hatred. "I didn't expect you to be this kind of person." Chen Shiyu's eyes darkened as he reached out to grab the woman's waist and said coldly, "Su Nanyin, I've told you before that the person I like is Ran Ran. Don't bother me anymore." Gu Ran was originally angry because she was embarrassed by Su Nanyin the day before yesterday. Now that Chen Shiyu publicly showed her love, her anger instantly dissipated and she snuggled proudly in the man's arms, raising her chin and saying, "Su Nanyin, did you hear me? Shiyu said he liked me, and you were just his assistant. If you want a sparrow to fly up a branch and become a phoenix, you don't look at your own identity. I advise you, as a girl, to love yourself and not to think of taking shortcuts, which is shameful." Chapter 9. Completely put down. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Few people know about the relationship between Su Nanyin and Chen Shiyu, except for Chen Shiyu's roommates who started a business together. Only Tang Ling knows. The company prohibits office romance. As Chen Shiyu's assistant, Su Nanyin is also responsible for taking care of his daily life in addition to work. The two of them have a close relationship on a daily basis, and some people have asked her if she is dating the boss, but she denied it. So at this moment, all the onlookers looked at her with a slightly off-topic expression. Su Nanyin kept staring at Chen Shiyu, hearing discussions and pointing at her. She hoped that he could stand up like a man to clarify that she was not the kind of girl who took shortcuts. They have been together for 5 years, and it was she who accompanied him from nothing to success and fame. But do you still expect a man who cheated first and used despicable means to deal with his ex-girlfriend to have a conscience? Su Nanyin was so hateful that, under the shameless and contemptuous gaze of everyone, she suddenly strode over and raised her hand, slapping the man's face fiercely. With a loud and piercing sound. Everyone was stunned by this slap, and no one in the lobby spoke anymore. They were all looking at her in surprise. Gu Ran saw the fingerprints on her boyfriend's face and angrily said, "Su Nanyin, are you crazy? Chen Shiyu, you really make me sick." After Su Nanyin finished speaking these words, she turned around and left. She thought that from today on, she could completely let go. Su Nanyin didn't look for a job anymore and went back to the hospital. "My mother is going to have surgery tomorrow," although the doctor has repeatedly emphasized to them that the success rate of early gastric cancer surgery is high, so they don't have to worry. But they are also aware that anything related to cancer is not a minor surgery and can be life-threatening. In the afternoon, the nurse came to sign her mother's surgical consent form. Su Nanyin's hands were trembling. Although she comforted her mother that nothing would happen, only she knew in her heart how scared she was now. After learning that she had stomach cancer, Su Jing often said that she couldn't live long. But this afternoon, she didn't say that again. She chatted with her daughter with a smile on her face, asked about the environment of her new company, and asked if she had talked to Shinyi last night. Su Nanyin didn't tell her mother that she had a bad job. She agreed to everything, including good work and good relationships with Shinyi. This made Su Jing smile even brighter. After the mother and daughter had dinner, Su Jing still spoke up. Mom pressed a passbook under the mattress, which contained 100,000 yuan. "It was originally a dowry that Mom saved for you. If Mom can't wake up tomorrow, then..." Su Nanyin interrupted her mother's words. "Mom, don't say that, you will definitely live 100 years. Mom also wants to live a long life for 100 years, but there are some things that can't be said for sure. It's better to be safe. Mom has told you what needs to be told. If there's anything unexpected, there won't be any unforeseen circumstances." Excited, Su Nanyin interrupted her mother's words again. She took her mother's hand and pressed it against her face, choking up her voice and pleading, "Mom, you must live. You can't leave. If you leave, I will be alone. I will be very lonely." Su Jing felt very uncomfortable when she heard her daughter's words. She raised her hand and touched her daughter's head, saying, "Yin, you can rest assured to go for surgery after Mom has told you." Su Jing paused for a moment and then said, "If your mother is gone, you can look back at home. Although your father is not a person, your grandfather cares about you. When you get married, he won't hurt you." Su Nanyin didn't want to hear these last words, but Su Jing insisted that her daughter listen to them all. After she explained everything clearly, she urged her daughter to go back and rest. Su Nanyin blushed as she tucked in her mother's blanket and turned off the lights in the ward before leaving. When she returned home, she bent down and sat on the sofa, holding her knee with a wristband and burying her face in her arms. Her mind was filled with her mother's instructions, as well as the scene of Chen Shiyu and Gu Ran hugging each other. She has always restrained herself and been strong. Only in such a quiet night can she fully release her emotions. Su Nanyin cried for a while before lifting her head to wipe her tears. Thinking of something, she got off the ground and put on slippers before entering the kitchen. She picked up 3 cans of beer from the refrigerator. Sitting alone on the sofa, feeling suffocated, one mouthful after another. She doesn't like drinking, but these days, every time she's under a lot of pressure, she can only fall asleep when she's drunk. But today she finished drinking 2 cans in a row and still couldn't sleep. Instead, the more she drank, the more uncomfortable it became. Su Nanyin wanted to find someone to confide in, but she thought of Yi Qiu and found her phone to make a call. Shenyi is going on a business trip to France for a week. While tidying up my luggage, my phone rang. He got up and went to the bedside table, picked up his phone, and saw the 3 words Su Nanyin flashing on the screen. He glanced at the time, frowned slightly, and finally answered the phone. Qiu, I feel so uncomfortable. Can you come and accompany me? Just as he put his phone to his ear, before he could make a sound, a woman's howling came from the other end. The sound is very harsh. Shenye's eyelids twitched as she recognized that Su Nanyin was drunk and had mistaken the wrong person. Miss Su, you have dialed the wrong number. But the drunkard on the other end of the phone clearly didn't catch his words and said to himself, Qiu, my mother is going to have surgery tomorrow. I'm really scared. What if the surgery fails? Shenyi had planned to cut off the phone, but upon hearing this sound, she paused and comforted her kindly, saying, Miss Su, the cure rate for early gastric cancer surgery in China can almost reach over 90%. Yakang is the best tertiary hospital in Jiangcheng, and aunt surgery will not be a problem. Su Nanyin was immersed in her own world and didn't even hear this sentence. If my mother leaves, I will be alone. Why is it so unfair? Why can the mistress be healthy, and why does my mother have stomach cancer? I'm really useless. If only I could earn more money, then I could take my mother to the capital. There are many famous doctors and professors there, so maybe my mother will have a higher chance of success if she goes there for surgery. If it weren't for me, my mom wouldn't have had stomach cancer. If my mother's surgery is successful this time, I will definitely take good care of her in the future. God, please bless my mother. I am willing to exchange my ex-boyfriend's life of 10 years, no, 20 years, no, or 50 years for my mother's successful surgery. Hiccup. Anyway, as long as my mother is alive, I can do anything. Waiting for the sound to disappear and the sound of breathing to come, Shenyi didn't hang up the phone. At this moment, the doorbell rang, and he finally regained his senses. He thought of something and went to open the door. Zhao Heng was surprised to see the boss still holding his phone in his hand. He called several times and the line was busy before he found it. Seeing that the boss had not finished the call, he quickly reminded him, Mr. Liu, we need to go to the airport. Shenyi let out a low and cut off the phone. After pulling up the suitcase and handing it to Zhao Heng, Shenyi made a long-distance call before boarding the plane. Chapter 10 was originally for you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At 6 o'clock in the morning, Su Nanyin arrived at the hospital and pushed open the door of the ward to see that her mother had already sat up. Su Jing was looking at the photo of her daughter on her phone when she heard the commotion. She looked up in surprise and said, Why did you come so early? Su Nanyin used to come over after 7 o'clock, but it's a bit early today. I can't sleep. Su Nanyin pulled up the chair in front of the hospital bed and sat down. She didn't bring breakfast today because the doctor said she had to fast before the surgery and could only drink a small amount of water after the surgery. She could only eat liquid food the next day. Su Jing looked at the red blood in her daughter's eyes and felt heartbroken. Knowing that her daughter was worried about not sleeping well, she sighed and put her phone aside. She took her daughter's hand and said, Dr. Wang said the chance of success is still very high. The surgery will definitely succeed. Su Nanyin covered the back of her mother's hand with her other hand and said, Mom, don't be afraid. I will wait for you outside. When you recover from your illness, I will take you on a trip. You also need to see me get married and wear a wedding dress. From now on, I will listen to you and never make you angry again. Su Jing wiped away her tears and repeatedly said yes. Su Jing's surgery is scheduled for 9 a.m., and it is her first surgery on Saturday. At 8:30, Su Nanyin and the nurse pushed the hospital bed upstairs. When they arrived at the entrance of the operating room, she couldn't enter and had to wait outside. As she watched the nurses come and go, her heart pounded incessantly, occasionally taking her phone to check the time. At 8:55, I haven't seen Dr. Wang yet, but I saw an old doctor wearing a white coat, about 60 or 70 years old, with gray hair, enter. Immediately after, the operating room lit up, indicating that he was undergoing surgery. Su Nanyin didn't know what was going on. When a nurse came out, she anxiously approached and asked, "Has my mom's surgery started? But why didn't I see Dr. Wang enter? Dr. Wang is currently undergoing surgery next door." "So my mom." "Don't worry, Professor Yang is currently performing the surgery on Auntie. He is an authority in this area, and Dr. Wang was the one who brought it out. You just need to be patient and wait. The surgery will be fine." Su Nanyin asked, "Is it Professor Yang Yi?" "Our hospital only has Professor Yang in this department, and you are very lucky." When the nurse left, Su Nanyin still stood still and couldn't believe what her ears heard. It turned out that Professor Yang Yi was performing surgery on her mother. It's Professor Yang Yi who has never failed gastric cancer surgery. So, mom's surgery will definitely be successful. The surgery was very successful. When Su Nanyin heard the nurse say this to her, her eyes turned red again, and this time she was happy. In order to take care of her mother, she did not look for a job again. A week later, an upper gastrointestinal angiography was performed, indicating good healing of the anastomotic site. Su Nanyin's hanging heart finally fell. That morning, after seeing off Yi Qiu, Su Nanyin turned around and planned to return to the hospital room. The phone in her pocket rang and she saw the 4 words, "blind date," displayed on the screen. She froze and froze, as if they hadn't contacted each other since that night. Although Aunt Chen said he was on a business trip and his work was very busy, she should understand. However, no matter how busy he was, there was not even a phone call to greet him. Su Nanyin still felt a bit uneasy. "I always feel like this husband is different from me. There is no difference between married and single. If I had known earlier, she shouldn't have gone crazy to get that certificate." While Su Nanyin was muttering on her phone, the elevator door next to her opened and a tall man walked out, as if sensing something. Su Nanyin lifted her head and happened to bump into a pair of dark and deep ink eyes, which left her stunned. Shen Yi saw her standing here, cut off the phone, and walked towards her. "You? How come you?" Before Su Nanyin could finish a sentence, Shen Yi said, "I'm coming to see Auntie." Although the two have already obtained their certificates, they only told their mothers that they were dating, so Su Nanyin called Shen Ye's mother Aunt. However, Shen Ye's aunt made Su Nanyin feel that he probably didn't treat her as his wife. Realizing this, she felt a bit stuffy in her heart. On the way back to the ward, the two of them stood in front of each other and didn't speak, like strangers who didn't know each other. At the entrance of the ward, Su Nanyin adjusted her emotions, opened the door, and smiled. "Mom, Shen Yi came to see you." Su Jing had already seen photos of Chen Yun's son and knew that he was very handsome, but now that she saw the man's handsome and outstanding face with her own eyes, she was still stunned for a moment. "I look even better than in the photo." Su Jing frowned slightly and glanced at her daughter, feeling worried. Shen Yi came over carrying something, and Su Nanyin placed it on the cabinet for him. Su Jing only glanced and knew that the price was not cheap. Just bring the people, why bother spending money? It didn't cost much money. Su Jing had also been a pampered wealthy lady before, and she didn't eat too much of these nutritional supplements. She remembered Qinyun saying that her son's salary was 20,000 to 30,000 yuan per month, and he could use a month's salary to buy supplements for his girlfriend's mother, which showed that he valued his daughter very much. Thinking of Chen Shiyu before, since she fell ill and was hospitalized, she has never been visited by anyone. By comparison, Su Jing still looks very pleased with Xinyi, especially Qinyun's son. Qinyun likes her daughter so much, and if Yin marries Xinyi in the future, she will definitely have a good life. Dr. Rounds. Suddenly, the voice of a nurse came from outside. After knocking on the door twice, a group of doctors and nurses wearing white coats came in, led by Professor Yang, who was performing surgery on Su Jing. Professor Yang was somewhat surprised to see Xinyi appearing here. He glanced at the girl next to him and felt a sense of clarity in his heart. After inquiring about the patient's physical condition, everyone planned to leave. Professor Yang looked at Xinyi and suddenly joked, "No wonder your little one insisted that I go back to Jiangqing for this surgery. Is this your mother? Law. Su Nanyin. She turned her head in confusion and looked at Xinyi. Other doctors and nurses stopped and looked over curiously when they heard this sentence. My girlfriend's mother. Girlfriend. You're not married yet. Professor Yang was obviously surprised and immediately said with a resentful tone, "You're too useless. You're already at this age and haven't become a full-time employee yet. It's not worth me saying that you're the face of our university." Then, with a smile on his face, he looked at Su Nanyin and said, "This kid called me twice before. The first time I didn't talk to him. Dr. Wang, who is also good at gastric cancer surgery, was very skilled in this area. I told him very clearly, but 2 days later, this kid called me again and told me to definitely go back. I even wondered if he took the wrong medicine. It turned out it was for you." Dr. Wang, who was on the rounds together, laughed and said, "No wonder you always flew back overnight. It turns out there is still this hidden truth." The doctors and nurses in the ward are all laughing. Su Nanyin blushed.